Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF party puts Robert Mugabe's wife on a path to power. We'll have details. Thousands of Maasai demand that the Tanzanian government reject plans for a hunting reserve. And planning a getaway? We'll show you some of the hottest and coolest hotels of 2014. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe may be 90 years old and rumored to have cancer, but once again, he is the unchallenged leader of the ruling ZANU-PF party. Mr. Mugabe's re-election on Saturday during the party's annual Congress puts Africa's oldest head of state on track to contest the 2018 presidential election when he will be 94 years old. As party boss, Mugabe promoted his wife, Grace, leader of the powerful Women's League, capping a meteoric 3-month political rise based in part on her public attacks on now former Vice President Joyce Mujuru. Mujuru, who only 3 months ago was favored to succeed Mugabe, was fired last week. Well, for more perspective on Zimbabwean politics, we are joined by Blessing Zulu, a reporter with VOA's Zimbabwe service. Welcome to Africa 54, Blessing.
Thank you so much, Vincent. The pleasure is mine.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, if we start with Joyce Mujuru, President Mugabe first described her as a person who was leading a treacherous cabal within the party to end his 34-year-old rule. What were exactly her crimes?
I think this is vintage Mugabe. Political analysts have called him a political Machiavelli character, who's, when you look at how he rules his political statecraft, it's through deception and divide and rule. The same accusations were put on the now favored Justice Minister Emmerson Mnangagwa in 2004. Mugabe accused him of plotting to assassinate him, and then he neutralized him. So we are seeing a replay of the same thing on Mujuru. That's typical of Mr. Mugabe, divide and rule.
Now, he appointed his wife, Grace, into this very powerful position. We say powerful, but then give us some insights. How significant is it?
It is quite significant in that, women in most parts of the world do constitute the high number of voters. And in ZANU-PF itself, the youth and the women play an important role. So that's what makes the post significant.
You see, some have said, you did actually mention Mnangagwa. Some are saying that perhaps now this might be an opportunity, now that Mr. Mugabe has not really mentioned a successor. But perhaps with Mujuru being out of the way, the vice president, this could be his opportunity, Emmerson Mnangagwa, to become the successor. Is that likely?
The problem now is that the party constitution has been amended once again to give Mr. Mugabe the power to appoint his deputies. So Mr. Mnangagwa might celebrate now, like what Mujuru did in 2004, but anything can happen because Mugabe can remove him anytime and put another one. He simply does not want anyone who becomes too powerful to deputize him. So I don't know, this dispute will continue for years to come as long as Mr. Mugabe is in power.
There's been a lot of talk about his wife, Grace. Is she likely to be his successor, from what you hear?
Not likely. I think where she is now, I think that will be enough for Mugabe to appoint him his deputy. It might be a bit problematic, judging from the fact that he's trying to play one faction against the other. So I don't see succeeding Mugabe.
Quickly, is there a rebellion or a likely rebellion within ZANU-PF?
The problem with ZANU-PF, as you have seen already, for Mujuru to move to form a own party, it might be problematic because there is a treason case hanging against her, and I don't see forming another party to challenge Mr. Mugabe because it means she will be going straight to jail. So those who might think of challenging him and have properties, their properties might be taken.
Yeah.
So they would be accommodated somehow.
In a few seconds, people are very concerned about Mugabe not having appointed a successor. But where is the opposition in this? Why are they so worried as if there's no opposition that can possibly step in?
That's the problem. The opposition is splintered. They also have problems of their own. You have Mr. Tsvangirai's powerful former Secretary General moving out to form his own party. So the opposition, what you are seeing in ZANU-PF is the same that is happening in the opposition.
It's a total mess.
It is. It is.
Well, Blessings, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
for joining
Vincent.
us today. Well, Blessing Zulu is a reporter with Voice of America's Zimbabwe service. While to West Africa now, the political scene in Nigeria is in overdrive with politicians trying to win the hearts of the citizens. Presidential elections are set to be held on February the 14th, 2015. One of the candidates vying for the top post is the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan. Our visiting reporter, Ine Thompson of Nigeria's Channels TV, spoke with some Nigerians living in the United States about the upcoming election.
In May 2010, President Goodluck Jonathan took the reins of power with the theme, "A Breath of Fresh Air." Nigerians accepted this change, and this showed during the election, which has been called one of the fairest in the country by both local and international observers. As the end of his first term draws near, Nigerians, especially those in the diaspora, have gone to the scoreboard to appraise the president's works over the past 4 years.
Let's be frank, Nigeria is not well positioned. And I think if we have a right leader who can be able to help us in security aspects, then prosperity will come in. Someone who is transparent, someone who is not tribal.
This thing in the north has been there for a long time, from the Metacene to it's been there. What the world see and what they are saying is, to me, sometimes is unfair, because the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian society has been in comatose situation for over 40 years.
In spite of this divided opinion, the president still holds on to his dream for Nigeria and shows this by declaring his intention to run for a second term.
I've accepted to present myself
with the determination to make his dream a reality.
Seen in Nigeria that even those who have carried guns against the state will embrace peace. I've seen in Nigeria that all our young men and women will have jobs to do, and everybody will have the opportunity for good education.
Once again, reactions sway both ways when asked if President Jonathan can deliver on his promises.
I think he has more or better democratic values than most other people that are clamoring for that same office. If people support him and want to work with him, he's a better candidate, in my opinion.
Politicians are all about, they come out and they say they will do this, they will do that, they will do this, they will do that. And look, we're not a new country. We've seen leaders come and go, and it's been same thing over and over again.
Interested politicians, apart from President Goodluck Jonathan, have indicated their interest and begun to campaign to be their party flag bearers. But the ultimate power lies with Nigerians to vote for a candidate whom they believe will make the country better than it presently is. Ine Thompson reporting for VOA News, Washington, D.C.
On to East Africa now. Around 5,000 Maasai are gathering in their ancestral lands in Tanzania to discuss allegations that the government plans to evict them and sell off their land to build a game hunting reserve for rich Arabs. Henry Ridgewell has more from London.
The allegations concern a vast plain on the edge of Tanzania's Serengeti National Park, part of Maasai ancestral land. The Maasai claim the government wants to evict 40,000 villagers and turn it into a game hunting reserve run by a safari company based in the Persian Gulf. 2.3 million people from around the globe signed a petition on the website of rights group Avaz against the proposal. Last week, Tanzania's President Jakaya Kikwete tweeted a message saying there has never been, nor will there ever be, any plan by the government of Tanzania to evict the Maasai people from their ancestral land. That's not true, says Maasai activist Samuel Nangire, who spoke to VOA on the phone from Loliondo in Tanzania, part of the land in question.
This plan has been there and everybody knows, the whole world knows, but the government denied that. So this was after the president said there has never been a plan and there will not be a plan. The Maasai wanted the president to put that in writing as a commitment from the government.
Nangire says the police are trying to disrupt a meeting of around 5,000 Maasai in the disputed region.
The police have been ordered to go on the ground and make sure that they dismiss the meeting, and no media coverage will be allowed to go there.
The Tanzanian High Commission in London did not respond to requests for an interview. Conservationists say it's vital that indigenous groups like the Maasai play a central role in securing remote areas for both people and wildlife. At a recent conference called Stabilisation Through Conservation in London, Ian Saunders, a conservationist and counterinsurgency expert who has lived in the Maasai tribal areas, told VOA any attempts to evict the communities would fail.
For any political party to try and relocate a considerably large community like that to another area is not only political disaster, it's also there'll be issues of security.
The Maasai insist they will keep protesting until they receive written confirmation that their ancestral land will not be sold off. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, now to the United States, where protests have escalated over grand jury decisions declining to charge white police officers for the deaths of black males in New York and Missouri. These protests about race and justice in America have been the most widespread and persistent in decades. Here's VOA's Michael Bowman.
Protests turned violent in Berkeley, California, where rocks and bricks were thrown and windows smashed. Police responded with tear gas as unrest continued for hours. More peaceful but no less fervent demonstrations continued in New York, Washington, Chicago, and other major cities.
We bluntly have to talk about the historic racial dynamics that underlie this.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio.
We have to have an honest conversation in this country about a history of racism. We have to have an honest conversation about the problem that has caused parents to feel their children may be in danger in their dynamics with police, when in fact police are there to protect them. We have to transcend that.
Can't breathe, don't shoot. Can't breathe, don't shoot.
The mayor says the city's police force, one of America's biggest, will be retrained to improve its dealings with minority communities and, it is hoped, avoid deadly confrontations like the one between officers and unarmed illegal cigarette vendor Eric Garner, who died earlier this year after being wrestled to the ground and forcibly restrained. De Blasio has spoken publicly of difficult conversations with his biracial son, telling him to be extra cautious if approached by police.
Don't move suddenly, don't reach for your cell phone, because we knew, sadly, there was a greater chance it might be misinterpreted if it was a young man of color.
Those comments have drawn the ire of police representatives who accuse the mayor of scapegoating rather than defending those who risk their lives to ensure public safety. New York Police Union Chief Patrick Lynch.
You cannot resist arrest, because resisting arrest leads to confrontation. Confrontation leads to tragedy.
Grand jury decisions declining criminal prosecution of police officers have grabbed the world's attention in recent weeks, but have been the norm for decades, according to criminal law professor James Jacobs.
Police officers have a certain, I think, presumption of legitimacy in the community. It's recognized that they have a very hard job to do.
Last week, President Barack Obama said public confidence in U.S. law enforcement must be restored, along with faith that laws will be applied equally to all Americans. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Uganda as a tourist destination? Well, stay tuned and we'll tell you why some say it is.
The battle against Ebola does not end when a patient survives the virus. I am Dr. Conde Greaves. Many survivors return home to their villages only to face stigma based on fear and ignorance. We must fight against stigma and welcome Ebola survivors back into our communities. They are no longer contagious and pose no threat to you. Thousands of orphan children also need your support. Imagine losing your mother and father to Ebola. Their tragedy is often compounded by rejection and isolation when they return home. This is wrong. They are not sick. We must welcome orphan children back into our communities. They have suffered enough. We must also respect our healthcare workers. Many have given their own lives so that others may have a fighting chance. Learn the facts about Ebola. Knowledge is life.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Welcome back. Africa 54's Paul Ndio has recently returned from East Africa. Well, today he takes us to Uganda, where the campaign to lure tourists is now in high gear. Paul?
Well, thanks, Vincent. Uganda is positioning itself as a tourist destination, and organizations like the Africa Travel Association are working hard to spread the word about places to visit in Uganda. Last month, more than 600 delegates from all over the world gathered in Kampala for this year's Africa Travels Association's World Congress. The Ugandan government says that tourism is now contributing close to 8% of the country's GDP. The tourism industry has been growing steadily over the last couple of years, and more than 1 million tourists visit Uganda each year. The industry employs close to 600,000 employees, and public records indicate that the government earned about $1.4 billion from tourism. Speaking recently at the Africa Travel Association Congress in Kampala, Ugandan President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni pledged his full support for tourism and assured the international community that East Africa is a safe destination.
So peace is there in the core part of Africa where tourist circuits are most developed. We are also dealing with the ease of travel. Like recently, we created a one visa for a number of countries here. I think it was Kenya and Uganda and Rwanda. So please, you get one visa. Once you get one, then you visit all the others.
Edward Bergman, the Africa Travel Association's executive director, says the goal of the 39th Congress was not only to promote tourism, but also to recognize the major contributions Uganda plays in maintaining peace and security in Africa.
As an industry, we are united, and we do not let the fears of terrorism or fears related to that stifle our passion for tourism.
Uganda's Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities noted that, among other things, the government is promoting the country's 10 national parks, where visitors can view wild animals in their natural habitat.
What we have here is almost everywhere. The animals are the same, lion, the elephant and all that. But when you come here, you find an elephant in its natural habitat. That is unique. And we have tried as much as possible to maintain that.
Amos Wekesa, a tourism guru and owner of several resorts and lodges, says Uganda has the potential to lead in tourism.
Uganda's tourism is just growing. We haven't tapped even 5% of the potential that we have. In terms of earnings, Uganda last year earned $1.4 billion from tourism. Without a lot of investment, we're hoping that tourism can bring in about $5-6 billion now that the government of Uganda is taking interest in marketing Uganda as a tourism destination.
Despite the growth of tourism in Uganda, the industry is facing a lot of challenges, according to Herbert Byarhanga, president of Uganda Tourism Association.
The challenges of the sector at the moment are really beyond us. They are quite international. When a disease breaks out, people cancel, and when they cancel, you can't do business.
Ikeche Uko, a Nigerian travel business consultant, says for African tourism industry to realize its full potential, Africans need to start traveling within Africa.
That we need to have more Africans travel within Africa and discover Africa.
Tourism analysts say hard to find activities such as gorilla tracking add to Uganda's appeal. Visitors on safaris can also enjoy culture tours, game drives, boat rides, and hiking, as the country prides itself as having the best land for exploring the real beauty of Africa.
In my next report, I will tell you about Uganda's plan to build its first car. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. We look forward to that report. Now, still to come on Africa 54. Get out your thermometers. It might be the coolest hotel yet. We'll get the details in what's trending. But first, a recap of Monday's headlines.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Music is an essential part of who I am, who my family is, and where I come from. Our show that is jazz-focused is called Beyond Category, and we take a very broad concept of what jazz is, but we look at about bringing in the greatest jazz artists working to talk about their music and to hear them play.
Not guilty on this charge, and Mr. Miller.
وخطتك برجل كيف ستتعاملون معه؟
عن الدورة الثانية للانتخابات الرئاسية داخل الجمهورية يوم الأحد.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. William and Kate, wow, New York. Now, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have arrived on U.S. shores for a whirlwind tour of New York City and Washington, D.C. The trip includes visits to Harlem Child Development Center and the September 11th Museum. William heads to the White House on Monday to meet with President Obama. The prince also takes part in a conference on illegal trafficking of ivory. In a major disappointment for royal watchers, little Prince George stayed home. Well, looking for ideas for your next holiday? Then check out what may be the coolest hotel of 2014. Well, it's the Igloo Village Hotel. It's one of 6 in Europe. Guests pay over $275 a night to stay in a room made entirely of snow and ice. Rooms are equipped with thick insulation layers, mattresses, and sleeping bags, meaning there's no worries about getting cold, say the staff. Now, for warmer weather fans, the hotel in the UAE brings a bit of Africa to Arabia. A former ruler turned this island off Abu Dhabi into a wildlife sanctuary, complete with more than 1 million trees and 12,000 animals. Well, next up, the next generation of television may belong to Netflix and its competitors. Well, TV Trend Watchers Nielsen says viewership of traditional programming has dropped 3.9%. In fact, from last year, while online and on-demand streaming jumped 60% and smartphone viewership jumped by 25%. Americans increased the amount of streaming web video to nearly 11 hours a month, an increase from nearly 7 hours a year earlier. These viewing habits are slicing the profits of pay TV, which, according to Nielsen, has lost more than 2 million customers and counting. And that is what is trending today. Well, it's time for Monday's Sports Report, and here's Sonny Young with the sunny side of sports. Hello, Sonny.
Hello, Vincent, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Here's a sunny side of sports salute to the Major League Soccer champion Los Angeles Galaxy, who won the MLS Cup with a 2-1 victory in extra time over the visiting New England Revolution. It marked a record 5th MLS Cup title for the Galaxy. Irish international Robbie Keane, the league's most valuable player, scored the game-winning goal in the 111th minute. It also marked a victorious championship exit for the Galaxy's retiring star, Landon Donovan.
On behalf of all of us, I love LA. We love you guys. And we're the first to 5, baby. Yeah!
League's all-time leading scorer, as well as the all-time leading scorer for the USA national team. A successful swan song indeed. Meanwhile, there were no swans down under in Australia over the weekend, but there certainly were a lot of Santas. In fact, more than 2,500 people got into the holiday spirit and dressed up as Santa Claus for a special charity race. The event raised money for the children's charity Variety. The Santas ran, walked, and danced their way to the finish line at the Sydney Opera House. Variety is a national not-for-profit organization that helps children around Australia who might be disadvantaged or have special needs. Ho, 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 down under. I'm VOA's Sonny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports. Vincent?
Wow, thanks a lot, Sonny. Be sure to watch the sunny side of sports every Monday and Friday right here on Africa 54. Well, and that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords.
Here's a word you might have heard in medical stories.
Chemotherapy.
Until recently, the treatment all patients received was the same chemotherapy. Sometimes it helped, but sometimes it didn't. Researchers have been trying to come up with better treatments to shrink the tumors without affecting normal tissue or subjecting patients to the negative side effects of chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy is medicine used by doctors to fight cancer and some mental disorders.
Chemotherapy uses chemicals to kill cancer cells in a person's body. The chemicals sometimes are mixed in a liquid and injected into a person's blood.
Now, when you hear the word chemotherapy, you will know what this newsword means.